Hey guys, I'm here with Rapidcasting at WCS Austin at DreamHack, very official title. This is your first WCS event, but everyone already knows you from all the GSL stuff you do. I mean, you're a big meme user on Twitter and Reddit and all that, so how about you give us a quick TLDR of who Rapidcasting is?
I'm a hashtag big fan. I just love watching esports. I grew up in the middle of the country and didn't have a whole lot to do but play video games, so I love playing video games, but nobody else did, so I kind of wanted to figure out a way to share something that I really liked with a bunch of the people around me. So I started making videos as a hobby, and well, eventually, fast forward a few more years, and now I'm out in Korea right now and actually back in America doing WCS. So I just really love esports and how it brings everybody together, and just want to keep sharing something that I love with everybody else.
And you were raised in Texas, so you're coming back to your homeland after how long?
Yeah, it's been almost exactly 2 years in Korea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So not too bad. But what was your first game that you were like so passionate about for esports?
Well, I mean, when I first started playing games, esports really didn't exist. I mean, it did in the sense of like Brood War and maybe a couple of other isolated things, but the first game I was allowed to play, because video games weren't very popular with my parents, was Age of Empires 1, because it was historical, right? So I convinced our parents to get us Age of Empires 1 and Age of Empires 2, and I would just play those. And those were super fun. And then after that, there was another RTS called Empire Earth. It was kind of the same thing, but went way into the future, and so that was pretty cool. And so I just kind of realized after a while, wait a second, I'm only playing RTS games. And then one of my friends showed me Brood War, and that was really the first, my kind of gateway into esports, where I saw that this is a thing that is somehow possible. And the more I started following that, the more esports started growing in North America, and that sort of opened the gateway for me and I guess everybody around that same time to, I guess, what esports really is.
Then you made your transition to Korea, where, I mean, would you say that's where you really started to do consistent offline gigs? That's when you really became like a professional esports person?
Well, so when I first started doing esports, I guess it's been like maybe 7 or 8 years now. It was mostly just a hobby, because I was still finishing up my degree at that time. So I was just thinking, well, what do I want to do? So I tried real jobs and stuff like that, but I never had as much success with that as I had with esports, and so I would start setting goals for myself. It's like, okay, well, this time I want to get paid for casting something, which was a big deal way back in the day when everybody was paid in esports dollars. So I just kept setting goals, like when I want to get flown to an event or do an international event, or get move somewhere to live to cast esports. And so I just kept working on more and more things, and I wouldn't say it was ever like really my goal to get to a certain place. I just wanted to be happy doing what I was doing and be able to do it. So
then what prompted you to move to Korea? Was it your own decision or was it a job?
So I kept trying to find an opportunity to move somewhere to live. I lived in like Australia and Japan and a bunch of other places, California, trying to get these esports series to work out, and it always seems like they would be sustained for a little while but not last too long. So when I got the opportunity to come to Korea, it seemed a little bit more sustainable. It was one of the only places in the world that has a real esports infrastructure, and so it seemed like a really good opportunity, and it has been.
So you go to Korea, you start doing GSL, now you also do some of the Brood War leagues as well, but you are a guy known for just never sleeping and watching about as many esports as possible. Yeah. Would you say you have a favorite esport, and how do you watch so many esports and keep track of so many things?
So when I was in grad school, I had a really unhealthy sleep schedule. I would sleep like 2 or 3 hours every other day, and it was just really bad. And I actually had a lot of health issues towards right before I graduated with migraines and terrible repercussions from that. So do not recommend that, but a downside of that is that while I do get a lot more sleep now, I just don't sleep a whole lot, and especially since I live in so many different time zones, I just really like watching esports. The great part about Korea is that there's something on all the time. I just think it's really cool to watch people competing at a high level, and so I just try to do that as much as I can. Even if it's going down to watch GSL or some other event that's going on, it's like, well, if I wasn't there, what else would I be doing? And it probably wouldn't be as fun. So.
Let's talk a little bit about you as a caster, I guess specifically in a casting career. So would you say the last couple of years have been your biggest breakout for performing, and has it been the best casting years of your life?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say. I think before that, I didn't really have a whole lot of guidance. I guess I really never had a whole lot of guidance because esports really didn't exist when I first started getting into it. So I was just trying to figure out how to do anything. I was like, how do I make YouTube videos? Or how do I go to an international event or something? But when I moved out to Korea, it was a really formative time in my life, a really big transition where I had to make a big decision. Is this something I want to do with my life? And not only is the esports infrastructure there really good as a way of sort of shaping me professionally, but also there's a lot of great influences out there from casters who have lived out in Korea for a very long time, and it gives me a lot of people I can go to ask questions, and just really good examples of successful careers in esports that I can use to sort of figure out what I want to do with my own.
So I know that you're pretty good friends with Tasteless and Artosis. If that wasn't clear to all y'all, he definitely is. But have they been really huge in shaping your casting career as well as improving your casting?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first moved to Korea, I really didn't know anybody. I didn't speak any Korean, and it was really bewildering to me. And Tasteless and Artosis are two of the first few people that really kind of sat down and were like, hey, how's it going? We know you're new here, so let's just try to help you out and stuff. And that was just really fantastic. I had always grown up watching the GSL, and so the idea that I got to hang out with them and talk to them was initially just like, wait, is this a possible thing that can be? But yeah, they're just the nicest people that I've ever met, and they've been really helpful in helping me out whenever I need advice or have some tough stuff to go through. They've been pretty amazing.
They definitely are. So now it's kind of coming up to this point where you're at WCS Austin, and while you have a lot of studio time and offline performance, for StarCraft 2 specifically, and you know this, but WCS really is the next step for a lot of casters. When you're cemented into the system, it really means a whole lot. So tell me a little bit about when you got the information that you would be casting Austin, and what went through your mind, and how did you prepare for it?
For WCS specifically, it's always something that I've kind of had my eye on. It's existed in a lot of different incarnations over many, many years. So I think I looked at it as something that was a little bit out of my reach because I lived in South Korea. So I was working on a whole lot of other StarCraft projects, but I kind of thought that was for people either in Europe or America. But I think it was maybe GSL versus the World last year where I finally got a chance to really talk to some people at Blizzard and say, hey, I'm out here doing all the StarCraft stuff. I'd love to do some StarCraft stuff, other places. And then, fast forward several months, and they got back to me and were like, hey, we'd like to work on getting you out to a WCS event sometime. So, here I am. It probably took quite a while, but it's really good to be here.
So you contribute a lot of you being finally flown out to you asking and telling them hey, I think I'm pretty good. Please check me out.
I wasn't just I would like a job, please hire. It wasn't quite like that. I think for me, my perspective has always been that if you just do a good job and it's good enough, then eventually people will notice you. And unfortunately, that's a little bit too idyllic, but a little bit of that and a little bit of just expressing how what you're willing to do and what your hopes and goals are for the future, and just communicating that. I haven't really been in a position to do that with a publisher directly before, but Blizzard has been pretty open to that and just kind of hearing what I had to say, and so that was I was really thankful that they listened and I was able to do this.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I feel maybe in the past there was a little bit of well, is he really a StarCraft guy? And then I think over time, your Twitter is full of StarCraft stuff. You're always posting on Reddit. Obviously, you do the Ballistic Sprawl with me, so it's it's very clear that you're a StarCraft guy. But it feels like you actually have been here so long, you've done so many of the important events, yet it does kind of feel and this is more a personal thing here, but that you were maybe a little bit forgotten. Someone had to remind you, hey, Rapidcasting's out there and he does StarCraft and he's really good.
Well, anyone that says it's easy to live in a foreign country doesn't know what they're talking about. Because while a lot of time Korea is kind of glamorized as, they have the best players, the best tournaments, the best, whatever it is, it's pretty hard. I mean, you're leaving behind a whole lot. So the opportunity cost is something I feel like gets forgotten. I mean, people speak Korean there and everything is in Korean. And just because StarCraft is something you broadcast in English doesn't mean that that's the only thing. So the infrastructure is a lot to adjust to. And so when you move away from America, I mean, that's just like 6,000 or 7,000 miles. So it can be you can feel a little bit isolated. But I would say especially coming out here to WCS and getting to travel a little bit more goes a long way towards making you feel like more connected and less forgotten.
So how does WCS stack up to those GSL? I mean, I kind of know this, but just for everyone else. But like, how does it stack up? You have a different format. It's a weekend event as well. Like, how's the hype compared to it? How's the foreign fans?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a different kind of format. Obviously, WCS is a big event, more like a WESG or an IEM or something like that. But when it comes to like studio broadcasts for leagues, I mean, that's something that happens, 2 or 3 times a week. And so you kind of get into a flow. There's no 2 or 3 hour rehearsals. You just come in and, get changed and go do your thing. And it's a little bit more laid back, but at the same time, you really get to build something. So if you have to go through an entire season, there's a big story that you can, do every single week. You're coming in for a new show that kind of picks up where you left off from before. Whereas an event like WCS, it's one big event where you get to pick up all the stories from before, carry them forward, and then you take a break for a long time until the next event.
Yeah. It's certainly very different, but even like having a cast with so many different casters, do you think you're already used to it because you do so many events and so many esports, or is it a little bit of like getting used to the chemistry for everyone?
I would say that a unique hallmark of my esports career is that I have just cast with a lot of different people. There was a period maybe 4 weeks ago where I cast 4 different games with 3 different casters 4 days in a row. So it was just like a lot. So there's been a lot of variety. And if that is the spice of life, that's what happens when the lid on the salt shaker comes off when you shake it. So there's just been a lot of that. So it's been a great experience for me because it gives me kind of the flexibility of working with a lot of different people. So obviously there have been a few WCS casters here that I haven't had the opportunity to cast with, but because I watch every WCS event, I kind of get the idea for what it's like, and you can kind of just like jump into that. And obviously, take some time to smooth things out, but I think that experience has kind of helped me adjust to casting with new people.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear. We're a little bit on a time limit, as you do have to cast next, and I think that that set just finished. But real quick, since this is you're kind of the ideal person to ask, esports is already pretty unknown as just like, where am I going to be in 5 years? Like, maybe you can think of a year or 2 in the future, but like, you're in Korea, you're not really like full time at GSL. You feel WCS is only a couple events a year. How do you deal with the unknown? And are you afraid because you're a little bit older? Are you afraid because you are in Korea, or like, is it easier because you're in Korea? There's so many events. Like, what are your thoughts on dealing with unknown?
I mean, I don't want to get too metaphysical, but for me, one of the things that I really learned to focus on when I moved out to Korea is just general happiness. I used to be a really big preparation kind of guy for broadcasting, and I think I've really sort of learned that it's almost more important just to be in a good frame of mind. So for me, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, not only just with esports or with careers or with what you're going to do for whichever game it is. But I don't think that focusing on that is very productive. I think it's better to just enjoy the time that you have doing what you enjoy, and be aware of the future, and maybe whenever you come up against opportunities, say, okay, well, this would be a good idea to do for the future. Like, be aware of it, but probably just focus on doing a good job and being happy. And I think that'll probably get you pretty far.
I think it's a pretty good philosophy in life. Just keep your mind in the present, only slightly think about the future. But kind of last thoughts, let's say there is an ideal world. What is the ideal future, both like close future and far, far away future for rapid casting? Is it a lot more StarCraft 2? Is it being able to transition to every single game? What is it?
I thought a lot about that. I am very happy in Korea. And so I think the next step to leveling up my life, I think, is learning Korean and becoming a little bit more acculturated out there. that aside, I mean, it'd be great to work on larger or even more consistent events. I think a big goal for me is just to come out here to WCS and do a good job and show that I can, join a broadcast, be a credit to it, and then help, tell the stories of the players in ways that fans enjoy. I've always been sort of an extension of the audience, just doing a slightly different job, and I really do enjoy doing that. And I think that's something that you can transition to a number of different roles. So I just want to develop myself as a broadcaster and enjoy where I am and what I'm doing, and that's pretty much where I am now. I just hope I can do it more in the future.
I actually have a billion questions to ask you, as I have every single person that I've interviewed, but we are in that time limit, so I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time. I know you're about to cast something awesome, so just quick shout outs for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to say other than just big thanks to everybody that's helped me since I moved to Korea and in esports. I'm consistently surprised how somebody I haven't talked to in 6 years can come back and give me an amazing opportunity. So just a big thanks to everybody that's been very kind and supportive to me in my career. And thanks for the interview as well, ZombieGrub.
No, thank you, man. And thanks for everyone who watched. So stay tuned to my channel for more interviews, and we'll see you later.